first gen farmer here, North Carolina. I think it's June 12th. Pretty nice day in the low 80s, partly sunny, pretty cool weather, not too breezy, good day to spray. I haven't had a lot of days to spray recently. So anyway, I have a pretty cool setup that I spray with that I don't see a lot of videos on YouTube of folks talking about it. So I know it frustrated me when I bought this setup back in 2016. I couldn't find any reviews or anything to kind of guide me that we all do when we look on YouTube and channels like mine to when we're making these decisions. But anyway, so I'll show you what I have. So I have a 60-gallon John Deere 12-foot boom, 5 nozzles sprayer. It has a PTO driven pump. This is the of course fully adjustable on your pressure here for those folks that really like to dial them in. I tend to be more guessing game. I'm not that sophisticated. You've got a bypass valve here for your boom, or I'm sorry, your wand sprayer, which is really nice. Has 16-foot hose and a really nice sprayer there, fully adjustable. It's heavy duty. I like it. You can of course fold these boom arms in on both sides when you're putting it in your shop. And I just a little trick I learned, I keep a little small can't even think what it's called, little cord right here, bungee cord, there it is, and wrap around that, because as you're moving in, you'll find that vibration will cause this arm to extend, and pretty aggravating when you're trying to get in the shop and that arm keeps moving out on you. So little farm engineering there to fix that. And that's probably it. I've got the standard sprayer nozzles on, that just kind of fan out. Of course, you can put whatever you want on it. Some people, like when they're doing nitrogen, like to do like a drizzle. I believe what that thing's called, like a drip or drizzle nozzle, so it's not concentrating so much on the leaf of what they're spraying, and it gets more down to the roots, which that makes sense, because I think that nitrogen can burn a little bit sometimes. So show you what I have, what I spray with. Sorry, camera's acting up. So I use Pasture HL. I've been using this since 2016. Not cheap. A gallon of it I think is 130 bucks. I'm gonna spray my horse pasture up here. It's a 3.2 acre setup. The reason I use that Pasture HL is I have milkweed here in North Carolina, which is kind of like a lemmy type plant. It just goes crazy in that pasture. It's really hard to eradicate. And so I worked with the local extension office here, which if y'all aren't doing that, I mean, that's just a great resource that I never really knew that much about until I started this and started using them. Sent them a picture of the milkweed plant, and they're like, oh, you need to use Pasture HL, and work like a charm, where 2,4-D would not kill it. So it, again, that stuff is expensive, but it does, for me, it works better than 2,4-D. Takes care of everything in my pasture. So I've got 60 gallons mixed up here. You know, if you're not highly technical in some of that stuff, you can drown in those directions on ratios and mixtures and what you should use and application rates. And so for me, I'm generally going to put about 60 gallons of this mixed up with a gallon of that Pasture HL in there, and I use a little bit of that stuff too. I forget what it's called, like expectorant, that's supposed to help it stay on the leaf and not come off and allow the plant to absorb it better, which is critical. So it has rained here in North Carolina recently. Rained a little bit yesterday, so I've let everything dry off really nice. Catching the pasture at a time where it's not dry or haven't had drought conditions, because you're not supposed to spray then either. Plant doesn't absorb it as well. So anyway, that's just a little bit of what I have experienced with my setup and my pasture for the last little bit. So we'll run out here and put some of this on, and we'll see how things go, but it generally should go pretty smoothly. And anyway, if you have questions about the sprayer or anything else about this kind of stuff, then feel free to drop me a note. I'm pretty good about responding in at least about a 24-48 hour period. But again, there just weren't any reviews on a sprayer type like this that I could find. So hopefully this will help you all when you're making that decision. I believe when I bought this in 2016, I bought it package deal when I got my 4052R. I want to say I paid like $2,000 for this sprayer. They're expensive. They're not cheap. So, but it's been very durable. I do keep it in the shop. I don't leave it out in the weather, and haven't had any problems. So good to go. All right, we'll get the tractor. We'll start spraying. I don't know if you all are like me on the weekend. A lot of times I don't really have a lot of time to go in and make a lunch. So this is today's lunch. This is what we call nabs. oatmeal cookie and cherry wine. And that's today's delicacies, but it's not fantastic, but it's quick. So that's what I need today. So this is my horse pasture. I've got decent grass growing. Again, it's June 12th. I better pay attention when I'm going through this gate or I'll rip one of these boom arms off. Give me a second. Again, June 12th. You can see I've got a mixed bunch of all different kinds of weeds going out here. So, you know, when I first started out doing this air down so you all can hear me better. I never really understood how important it was to minimize your weed load in terms of keeping the nutrients going to the grass that you want to keep in your pasture, or the things you want to keep growing good in your pasture. So the weeds will really soak up and kind of hoard up all the nutrients and all the inputs you put in your pasture if you don't manage them properly. So, and it looks nice. So anyway, to get all these weeds out of here. So I'm gonna start spraying now and show you a little bit of that running, and again, that's really it. So here we go. All right, ate my nabs and my cookie, so I'm ready to start spraying. Tell you why I really like that Pasture Guard HL. Well, let me back up. 2,4-D, most of the time 2,4-D has a no grazing requirement of between 7 and 10 days. Well, for horse people, I mean, that's a problem. You know, I mean, where am I going for 7 to 10 days in the summertime? I don't really want to leave them in the stall for 7 or 10 days. I don't like to do that. They like to be out, and I like for them to be out. You know, being in stall for 7 or 10 days creates a lot of work. That's a lot of shavings, a lot of cleaning out, and just running fans and everything else where I like to leave mine turned out as much as I can. So this Pasture Guard HL has a, it says you can put them right back on the pasture when you're done. I typically don't do that. I'm gonna leave them off the pasture for a couple days and let this stuff kind of soak in a little bit, and then I'll turn them back out. But that's a lot easier to manage than 7 to 10 days of 2,4-D. Again, that's just a problem. I mean, I know other horse people around here, and they, you know, it's the same thing. Their pastures get in a way that they don't like with weeds, and I said, well, shoot, I don't want to spray because it just takes too long to let that stuff get conditioned before I can turn out again. See it primed up and spraying. We'll run along here about 5.5, 6 miles per hour. 40 pounds PSI, 40 pounds of pressure. See what we do. So it's a pretty easy setup, really. I mean, there's really nothing tricky or funky about it. It's just, I used to have every now and then I've had problems getting that pump to prime. I don't really understand it. You know, you put the suction in on top, put the feed in on top, and the output on the bottom. When you're connecting that pump, no big deal. Hit the PTO button and it generally goes. But I did have a few times, and no, the hose wasn't kinked, and there wasn't trash in the pump or in the tank or any of that stuff. I don't know, there's no rhyme or reason to it. But anyway, I got past it, and now it works great. So I don't have any problems. So pretty standard setup, and hopefully this, I generally only have to do one application, and hopefully this will take care of it. It's not really cheap. That Pasture Guard HL is expensive. I mean, a gallon, $120 for a gallon is pretty rough. But it does. I have had really good results. So you can see I've got a weed problem. So we'll give this about a week to work, and then I'll do a quick follow-up video for you all so you can see the results of the application rate and combined with the product and see what it does for me. So